Magandang gabi, ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Pakisabi na lang po kung may audio tayo, ha? Magandang gabi sa lahat ng nasa Facebook at saka sa YouTube. Medyo marami yata tayo ngayon kasi apparently it's the breaking news that has drawn people at kailangan itong pag-usapan. Okay, let me see. Hi. All right. All right, guys, calm down. Medyo agitated ang mga taong sungit dun sa sa comment section eh. And the comments leads me to believe na may mga na nayayanig All right, let's begin. But let's start with the motion for extension of time. Binigyan ng COMELEC ng 5 days ang panig ni BBM para sumagot dun sa reklamo of material misrepresentation and cancellation of his certificate of candidacy, which is actually a thinly disguised disqualification case. Or it's actually a disqualification case. Binanggit lang nila na yung ground nila is the material disqualification. Okay? Humingi sila ng motion for extension of time kasi 5 days lang ang binigay. Normally kasi ang binibigay, lalo-lalo na kapag sa regional trial court or sa Supreme Court, ang binibigay na oras ay 10 hanggang 15 days. So malamang kinapos lang sa oras yung mga lawyers and they asked for more time para masagot ng buong buo yung reklamo. Bakit kailangan nila ng more time? Kasi lately, pinag-uusapan yung posibleng hindi na ilaman dun sa complaint. At yun ay yung pag-include nila ng provision dun sa National Internal Revenue Code na ang conviction for any offense within the code ay may kaakibat na perpetual disqualification from office and a jail term. So it might require some interpretation by the COMELEC. So iniipon ng mga abogado yung mga kaso na makakapagsagot na kagad nung katanungan na yon bago pa yan i-bring up. Okay? So it's just that sinasabi lang kasi ng kabilang ng ibang mga pahayagan na kapansin-pansin. Kumbaga ini-interpret nila yon na kung ganun pala kababaw or kawalang kwenta yung kaso, why are you asking for an extension of time? I think that nasa sa abogado din yun. Malay nyo, hindi naman talaga natapos. So it is normal for lawyers to ask for extension of time to file a responsive pleading. Hindi naman po issue masyado yan. Although ginagawang issue ng ibang mga pahayagan. Now, meron ding disqualification case. Galit na yung iba, hindi ko pa dinidiscuss yung gustong discuss. I thank you kay Ma'am ZST. Nagpadala siya. Ay nako guys, hindi na kayo nasanay sa election. Anyway, disqualification case. Meron din pong disqualification case si Mr. Raffy Tulfo. Tama ba yun? Because apparently he misrepresented na wala daw siyang asawa at parang pinapa-cancel din yung kanyang certificate of candidacy. Ang difference naman po ni Mr. Tulfo kay BBM ay yung kanyang misrepresentation could possibly be not material. Ibig sabihin, it does not go into his qualifications as a candidate. Ibig sabihin lang, hindi niya nailagay kung may asawa siya o hindi, pero hindi po kasi disqualification yung iniwan niya yung asawa niya or wala siyang asawa or he is acting like he doesn't have a wife. Although sinasabi dun sa reklamo na merong mga nakahain na bigamy cases against him. Since hindi pa po yun nare-resolve, wala pa po siyang conviction. Okay? Alright. So sinabi daw ng Pangulo, teka, hanapin ko nga, hindi ko na i-post. Sinabi daw ng Pangulo na mayroong isang candidate na may kandidato tayo na nagko-cocaine, mga anak ng mayaman. Anong nagawa ng taong yan? What contribution has he made? Bakit parang ang Pilipino lokon-loko? I'm not worried, sabi niya. Bahala kayo sa gusto niyo na tao. Ang akin lang, pagdating ng panahon, basta sinabi ko sa inyo, he's a very weak leader, except for the name, ang tatay. Pero siya, ang ginawa niya? If that's what the Filipino wants, go ahead. Okay? Ah, so, may nagtanong dito, why the mudslinging? Are you asking a serious question? It's election time. Don't we sling mud so much every time kay Vice President Lenny? Diba? When you make insinuations about her relationship with certain men, certain unnamed men, and so on, isn't that mudslinging? What about when you, it's not even criticism, but when you talk about ISCO and an alleged gambling problem, is that not mudslinging? So you're just not used to the fact that sometimes our own candidates, or sometimes the people we're not used to being, kumbaga, because we're defensive of a particular candidate, nagagalit kayo dun sa nagka-criticize sa kanya. But let's be objective here. Ang tinitignan natin is, why does this upset you? If you think that it is not true, then it's not upsetting. Diba? We can just dismiss it. It's not true. But some people are unusually agitated, and I think that's what the president is trying to draw out. Yeah. Sabi ni Ito Agi, PRRD turning yellow-pink in his mudslinging tactics. Again, aren't we used by, he has always been like this. He has called Senator De Lima as, how do you call this? What was his term? Of loose morals, and so on. But because you don't like Senator De Lima, it's okay with you. And because now it is BBM who is the object of this alleged mudslinging, then you're angry and you're upset and you're now calling it mudslinging tactics. It's elections. Okay. Si BBM po ba yung sinasabi ni PRRD na nagko-cocaine? Anong basihan nun? Di naman siguro aanib si Mayor Sara kung totoo yon. Why are I think it was deliberate on the part of the president not to mention any names. Di ba? Kung iniisip nyo kagad at nag-aalala kayo dun sa kandidato ninyo, that's exactly the kind of reaction that he was drawing from you. Why are you worried? Di ba? What the president is saying actually is several things. It isn't so much itong pasabog niya. He's looking at your reactions. He will base his next actions on your reactions because you're showing him exactly the information that he needs to know. That's the kind of thinking that this president does. Okay? So if you're confused right now, it's because you're so used to being on the side of the president. It's kind of scary being on the other end, diba? Being on the other side of the fence. Because we know what he has done with his enemies. Okay. Ralph De La Cruz said, if I'm putting PRRD's latest statement into a positive perception, I think he's creating a diversion tactic to shift the focus into Bongo versus BBM instead of Lenny versus BBM. That's a fair point. JT says, sa palagay ko, tumatakbo yun for Senate. Merong sinabi si PRRD doon before, sabi niya, ang tatay mo magaling, pero ikaw, ha, it's an indirect rebuttal for someone who is asking for a debate. Maybe. Thank you kay Jeffrey Makaraig. Thank you kay Mamiya Poch. Sabi niya, hindi ko maintindihan si PRRD kung sinong nagko-cocaine. If you can't understand who he's referring to, then you can just leave it at that. Is it even necessary to find out? If you don't know who it is and it isn't obvious to you, then, diba, why are you bothered? It isn't your candidate. Whoever that candidate is, ha? Itong sinasabi ni Moses, so okay yung violent reaction. Who is acting violently? Are you? Proud Pinoy says, alam niyo guys, ganito lang yan. Dahil sa sobrang lakas ni BBM at Sara, kaya dinadivert ni PRRD yung mga attention ng kalaban sa kanya para hindi mabuntunan ng mga dilawan si BBM at Sara. Yun lang yun. I kind of like that. Hindi ba lalong magagalit si Inday Sara sa kanya dahil sinisiraan niya ang kandidato na sinusuportahan niya? Hindi na ba niya naisip ang damdamin mismo ng anak niya? Guys, I seriously don't want to bring up arguments about the familial relation between the president and Inday. because anything you argue about family relations for the father will apply to the daughter. So if we're going to think logically here, the family relations are of no moment. Both father and daughter are objective. They're both lawyers. They know how to act in, non-emotionally. They know how to calculate. So if you bring up a family relation, that's fine if it works to comfort you. But yeah, what about the reverse argument? Yeah. What I'm saying here is the president is forcing us to think. Okay? Whether you agree with him or not, that's not the reaction he's trying to get out of you. It's making you think. Think about your choices and so on. John Patrick Lee says is you mean he's testing the waters with the cocaine statement? I'm not saying that either. Here's the thing. He didn't name names. Okay? He he made certain references. Do you think that this can apply to another candidate? We're not sure. Is there enough information there? We're not sure. And yet, almost everyone, to a man, has pointed to a single candidate. What does that mean also for you? What does that mean for the president? Again, the idea here is to think, to make you think. Uh, Whether in a good way or a bad way, that's really up to you. But he's compelling you to think. Right? What is the next step after thinking? Evaluation of the candidates. That's how he's doing this. It's not bad for an old guy. Edgardo Bautista says, unawa natin kung si kay Bongo si PRRD pero di maganda para sa kanya na siraan niya si Bongbong. Halata tuloy na masyado na silang nasarapan sa upuan. No, that's your interpretation. I think it's completely something else altogether. The president, Inday Sara was, she had shown that she could walk away from all of this. The father can do the same, actually. So, like I said, a lot of the arguments can be applied, against you as well, against your candidate as well, or against the any of the personalities that are involved here. The whole idea here is to think about the candidate. Now, what is the president saying among other things? Bakit ang Pilipino lokong-loko? So, he's just making a presentation and he's asking you to think. Now, he's not usually this subtle and he's not usually this, he doesn't mention names and so on. But he's going for the agitation. And as far as I can see, it's working. Jazz Sales says, quick question. Isn't Senator Gordon ineligible to run for a post because his case with the disallowance or malversation of SBMA fines is final and executory? Does it count as moral turpitude? It was a civil case and not a criminal case. So, Sayofi Wonder says, wala naman siyang sinabi niya. Huwag niyong pansinan na sinasabi niya if you trust BBM. That's another good reaction, actually. Di ba? So how are we doing so far, guys? Still agitated? Sinaido Walton sent a super sticker. Magandang gabi po, madam. Here, I think Vicente Fernandez has it. PRRD is shaking the tree to elicit conversation, comments, and reactions. He's just, not touching the water. He threw something into the water to see the ripples it will create. You're right. Gaano po ba kalakas ang DQ para kay BBM? Bakit po si De Lima hindi po ma-DQ? Pwede po ba ang ordinaryong tao mag-DQ sa kanya? Madam, hindi pa po nako-convict si Senator De Lima. So, hindi talaga po siya madi-disqualify pa. Okay? Parang yung sa kaso ni Sir Raffy Tulfo, meron daw ongoing case for bigamy pero hindi pa po siya convicted. Therefore, hindi pa po siya madi-disqualify on the ground of moral turpitude. V Swanka says, oh, good grief, what's wrong with my computer? Sorry. Maraming salamat, PLDT. V Swanke says, pero ang ending, pag nahati ang votes, baka si Lenny o Isko pa ang, or or Lenny Manalo. I think that both candidates are pretty confident. Both Senator, grabe, ang hirap, no? Kasi Senator Bong at saka former Senator Bongbong are both confident that that's not gonna happen. Max Tam says, do you think BBM can keep his calm with this tirade? I mean, klaro naman na the conjugal dictatorship ni Primitivo Mijares ang source nila. So, um, I think that by now, BBM and family are used to it. Na Ignis says, sa totoo lang po tayo, alam niyo naman po na si BBM ang tinutukoy ni PRRD. Hindi po kasi maganda yung mga ginagawa ni PRRD. Kung tiwala si PRRD na mananalo si Bongo, lumaban siya ng patas. Come on, really? You think that elections aren't made of statements like this? Again, I'm going to point out, it's because it's your candidate and you're feeling defensive. But look at the things that we've thrown at Lenny Robredo, the things that we've thrown at Laila de Lima. You don't think they're the same? You don't think that those words that we threw at them aren't of the same character? And so now, are you saying hindi tayo lumaban ng patas dati? Hermary Lamasan Gittering says, ano po masasabi niyo sa pagpapatanggal kay TP sa SMNI ng camp ni na Senator Go at Banatbay? I really don't know if there's any truth to that. So until I have facts, then I'm not going to talk about it. Kasi it's not fair kung magagawa ako ng opinion na wala naman tayong kaalam-alam tungkol dun sa facts. Jay Banana says, watching from South Carolina, USA. Alpax the Great says, dahil sa pag-aaway ng BBM at BG, may mga fake news na lumalabas na pinapatulan agad ng magkabilang grupo. That's it. Very good. When you're forced to think, you're forced to have a look at all what news is fake and what isn't. Because it's elections. Diba? I'm sure, and guys, by the way, if you're talking about how unfair these statements are, you'll also have to consider, look at the statements that are being said about Senator Bongo. Questions about his nationality, being called, an alalay of the president and all that. All of these are criticism that could also warrant a statement na unfair, lumaban kayo ng patas, and so on. Okay? Now, I know that BBM himself doesn't say these things, which is a good thing. But the president's style is so completely different from that. And remember, we knew what he was like even before when we elected him president. When he was doing all these things against drug lords and all, we were cheering him on. Now that you see that this force is directed at the person that you like, you're forced to rethink. What about all that stuff that we said in favor of the statements that he had made? Diba? Oragon says, it was a childish act. I was once a supporter of PRRD, but now not anymore. It's only because what you cheered for before, you no longer agree with. But, di ba? Now it's forcing us to think. But it is PRRD who is at the losing end of it, sabi ni Grace Del Rosario. I don't think that the president cares. He has never cared about what people think. He dared the drug war and pushed it to the limits of legal endurance. Okay? Meaning, he was pushing the limits of the law. Did he care? Diba? Did he care then? The very characteristics that we liked about the president, now that it's directed against somebody you like, you're no longer sure. What about your claim that you were in favor of the drug war? What about your claim about we were in favor of all of these things? So many of the candidates are well aware that people are supportive of that. And part of that drug war was to shame the drug lords. Diba? The drug user, well, not the drug users, but that was part of it. And we cheered him on. Now you're just uncomfortable with it because you're seeing it targeted against the candidate that you favor. Again, it's kumbaga, it's an assessment. How logically are we thinking here? Ah, sabi ni Chasak, bakit na lang hindi elaborate ang binitiwang accusation ni General Paralade na isa sigo sa problema? Bakit nila papatulan yon? He gets to define his issue. If a candidate raises this, as General Parlade did, uh, kung importante siya, papatulan yan. Pero the president knows, and by extension, I suppose Senator Go, knows na kung papatulan nila, he is lending his publicity to a person who has less. Diba? Ano yung saying? You acquire the size of your enemy. Kung papatol ka sa mas mahina, then, diba? Then ikaw yung humina. So that's it. That you don't get to define it, they get to define it. At least the president gets to define it because he has center stage. He understands that. It's called knowing how to use your power. Why do you keep asking who Estelito Mendoza is? He was former Solicitor General under President Marcos. Why? You know, guys, I keep telling you, if a person can make you angry, he has just taken control of you. He has controlled your reaction. Hera Shelley says, what just, I hate this question. It's not true that that's what he said. He interrupted his own train of thought. He was referring to Lenny. He was talking about BBM and then suddenly shifted. Okay? But if you will notice, he did not elaborate. Why? Because he did not mean to say that. He was not referring to BBM. Nick Barbosa, please, next time don't use all caps. I click randomly on the comments, pero nakikiusap ako. Maayos naman tayo dito eh. Halata na ginugulo nila sina BBM at Inday Sara. Nagugulo ba si BBM at si Inday Sara? Seriously guys, bakit kayo yung nagugulo? Wait for the candidate to react. Nung sinabi nga ni PRRD na gawing disinfectant ang gasolina, pinaniwalaan ba natin o sinunod natin? Hindi, but we still remain supportive to PRRD. Ganun lang yon, sabi ni Del Cayabyab. There you go. Yung Biona says, baka mag-backfire kay PRRD ang statement niya. Bakit may na-tolerate ang gamit na cocaine sa panahon niya? Guys, why are you concerned about things backfiring on the president? One, he's not running. He's not a candidate. Right? It's not Senator Bongo who's saying this. It is the president who's saying this. Why should he care? Yeah? He's already president. He's not running for president. Kaya pala hindi pinapatulan ni BBM sila PRRD sa mga accusations nila kay BBM kasi mahina sila. I didn't say that. I didn't say mahina sila. And look at your reactions. Kayo nga nagre-react eh. If a person can make you react, then he just got control of you. So, my point here is, why are you getting angry at the president? He has always done this. Always. Okay? Now, he did this with certain police generals. After that, they disappeared. By disappeared, I mean almost literally disappeared. They were out of the police force. I guess they were, forced to resign or retire. The drug generals, he never filed a case against them. They ran. Not ran for office, ran as in away. Is he doing this intentionally for the people to dislike him or go and to divert the favor to BBM? It seems that's what's happening right now. Then parang makalimutan ng Pinklawan sa ang manok nila. It's controlling the conversation. Look, who are you talking about? Aren't you talking about PRRD? Good or bad, publicity is still publicity. Look, I'm not saying you shouldn't believe him. I'm not saying you should believe him. I'm saying is that we should think. Okay. Now the president has done this with other drug suspects. He did this with the police generals. Didn't file a case, they resigned. They're forced to leave and so on. Why? Because it's possible that there was some truth to it, but they were avoiding litigation. It's something that lawyers do. You avoid litigation. You avoid an actual court case. Okay? It saves you and the court time. That will be the day when Bongo will withdraw his candidacy and endorse BBM. I wish that's the endgame tactic of this political genius president. Well, I think we all agree that he's a genius. Sabi ni Archie Dialocas, thank you for your super chat. I have a new video in your starring. Naiyak pa ako sa last statement mo. I'm a big fan. Which last statement? I'm sorry, I just don't know what you're referring to. It must have been, uh, I hope that was recent para maalala ko pa. Si Duterte nga dumaan niya nga dyan sa sitwasyon ni BBM ngayon, dumaan din siya sa butas ng karayom. Yes, exactly. Now here's the thing, guys. It's elections. Expect mud to be thrown at your candidate, regardless of who your candidate is. Diba? Both of them, oh, both. Parang dalawa na lang silang kumakandidato, which I think is a good thing. Okay? Either one of them, diba, they get the support of the people. No. Uh, the winning person here is the person who gets to control the conversation. And just right now, I'm seeing that the president succeeded. He's controlling the conversation. Because all of you are here right now asking, what is it all about? Is it true? Why is he doing this? Now, check your reactions. Some of you are asking, totoo ba ito? Which I think is, well, of course, that's okay. That's a regular reaction. But there are others who, without finding out the truth or the falsity of the statement, galit na sila dun sa nagsalita. Why are you reacting that way? I do want to know. Instead of saying na, okay, let's find out about this. Is this true or is it not true? And so on. Diba? I think that BBM will react by taking a drug test, which, again, shows who controlled the conversation. But it's good for him to do that. Eto, what's your take on Mayor Sara's decision on being the chairman of Lakas CMD? Well, it's like this. The chairman is Senator Bong Revilla. And usually the chairman of a political party is the highest ranking official. So this is in anticipation. Lakas CMD is giving the chairmanship to Inday Sara because although she's not the most ranking political member, kumbaga, government member of the party, she certainly is the most influential and quite possibly the most powerful. Mariani de la Cruz, those who changed their mind from PRRD are those who still don't know him and are not his true supporters. I trust PRRD. He knows where he's leading us and this country. So I kind of like that, but I like people to think also. We knew that going into elections, it's going to be dirty. Okay? But because two very popular candidates are running for office, we thought, exempt sila. Or at least in the back of our heads. Now that the mud is being thrown, then you're offset. You're, oops, what's going on? And now you're angry, you're upset. And what did I say about being angry and upset? You don't think a lot. Your emotions control you. Okay? The reaction really ought to be, wait, is this true? Let's find out. That would be the most rational reaction. Instead, galit. My gosh, somebody can really pull your strings. Francis Cayetano says, but it looks personal for PRRD. Said Marcos ang kumokontrol kay Sara, tapos may sasabihin siya tungkol kay Marcos. Then poof, a cocaine issue. Didn't you just reveal that you're hanging on to every word of the president? And why are you doing that? Because what he says means something to you. And if it means something to you, even if you don't agree with it, then it means something to a lot of people as well. If you will notice, this discussion isn't about what the president said per se. the contents of what he's saying, but more about what he's saying, how he's pulling your strings, and how all of us are dancing to his tune. Yan, sabi ni Marvy Angelo, he said that he's not worried. If gusto niyo yung kandidatong yun, go ahead. Kung yun daw gusto ng Pilipino, di bahala kayo. Basta siya nagpapaalala lang. Guess he just wants to draw the line. Who's with him and who's not. Could have stopped there. Di ba? Sabi ni Owen, ganito po kasi yon. If ganyan litanya ni PRRD, that defeats the purpose of his drug war in the first place. Does it? As he's aware of those people doing cocaine, bakit di niya hinuli o hinaba? Did you forget that the president is a lawyer? What is the penalty for drug use? Isn't it that the strong penalties, the penalty of reclusion perpetua, is reserved for the drug pushers? And what was the drug war about? Not about the users, but the pushers. So, what do you think? Please don't underestimate the guy who knows the law. So, how can you say that it defeats the purpose of his drug war? It doesn't. Well, you don't punish the user because the user is actually entitled to a plea of guilt subject to going to rehab, and then your records are sealed. So the president knows that the law isn't intended to punish the user, especially if it is first time. You get a reprieve, you get to go to rehab, and no record. If you repeat, that's dangerous. That's when you're going to get the full force of the law. Cooking Dad says, galing ba sa intelligence yung info ni PRRD? How effective and strong bang intelligence of a president? Always solid and airtight po ba? When he was giving out intel information about the drug lords, didn't we all accept them as gospel truth? Why are you questioning it now? Suddenly, your standards for before, when the drug pushers were just strangers to you or people you didn't like, you never questioned it. Now you're suddenly questioning how good his intel is. Don't you think that that's what the discussion is about? Isn't about the contents, but rather what it's making you do. The Night Fury Galaxy says, why do you think PRRD chose Cayetano over BBM? Think. Really? Uh, what is your analysis of that? I think seriously, it is about how many people they could bring in. It's simply that because elections are numbers. Yeah. Hindi yan sasabihin ni PRRD kung walang basehan, sabi ni Tlu. Thank you for your super chat. Ito. Ano po ang masasabi mo sa mga naging pahayag ng mga presidentiable on the PCCI forum? Sayang nga lang wala si BBM para mailatag din niya ang kanyang mga plataforma. O nga no, di pali antayin ko na lang sila na maimbitahan po ninyo sila sa karambola ng maliwanagan ang mga undecided at sa mga nagugulo. I assume that's naguguluhan. Okay. Is it possible that PRRD wants to focus the attention of people and media to BBM and GO so that they will become the top two in the survey? And that's a sure win for pro-admin candidates because they're in the top two. I think that's an interesting theory. I can't say anything with finality because, like I said, the president is playing a pretty deep game here. Hi po, if BBM wins and President Duterte becomes a senator, how will it work between BBM's presidency and the Senate? Well, we'll see. You know how the president is, diba? With some people, he can be very harsh, but if he's mistaken, he will apologize. That's the way he has always been. Have you forgotten? Now, part of becoming a politician is knowing when to go against somebody and knowing when to work with them. And the really good politicians are capable of swinging back and forth from these two as the need arises. Diba? So I have no doubts that they'll be able to work together very, very well. Remember, for instance, both Senator Aimee and BBM have worked with people who have bashed them before. And so has the president, by the way. What is my thoughts is that we need to stick to the principle that if there is no evidence that has been shown, then we need to think carefully about our assumption. It's all about the evidence. That's excellent, yes, but it's also about what the president knows. It's also about how we reacted. Now that you've suddenly taken seriously what I've been saying for a long time about evidence, now you suddenly listen, di ba? But now we have to go back. 'Di ba? With Senator De Lima, it's easy because she's on trial. You're seeing all the evidence, 'di ba? Plus there's certain things that she admitted against her own interest, 'di ba? So now you're seeing how complicated things really are. Even the president is a very complicated person. So sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't, but almost always he has shown that he can exercise power and he handles it very well, like a surgeon with a scalpel. Ako si Tango says, I will be more interested what will be Sarah's reaction to PRRD's accusation. Ba't kaya sinabi ni Tatay Digong weak leader si BBM, di tulad ng ama, wala daw nagawa, tagal ng politiko. Wait, was he talking about BBM when he said that? Why are you equating it with BBM? Ah, Eto, Boyet Gabatino says, nangyari na yan sa former governor Pangasinan dati kasama sa drug list tapos hindi naman pala at humingi siya ng sorry, sabi ni Boyet Gabatino. Yep. Fair game will vary, sabi ni Ibrahim Pangarungan Jr., from people to people. If BBN wins this election, overcoming all these incredible adversaries, fair or not fair, what a feat it will be. Sweetest victory for them all. There you go. Why? Because these are elections, guys. This is what happens during elections. It happens even to our candidates. Now, here's the problem. And it's being revealed, diba? When PRRD was running for president, there were so many people who were running interference for him. So many bloggers at the time, hindi pa, so many people were answering back for him. He had the people on his side, diba? Now, look at any of the candidates, if anybody is running interference for them, and how many, and is it the ordinary people or is it people who are running with him and so on. That will spell the difference between the two of them, or the three of them, or the four of them, or whoever you think is still in the running. Ako, I leave Lenny out of it. Mount Cabin is asking a very dangerous question. Maraming nagawa si BBM, si Go, alalay, di ba? I think that Senator Go has done quite a lot also in 3 years. So be careful about questions that tend to backfire. This is going to sharpen your perceptions. One, of what elections are all about, and two, suddenly being on the opposite end of what we were doing in 2016. Eto sabi ni Cesar Arpilla, if emotions suddenly kick in, ang hirap mag-control. Buti andyan ka pampakalma. Perspective, guys, perspective. BBM will never try an illegal substance, that's for sure. Fernando Carangan says, is he unveiling how ugly the 87 Constitution is? Guys, the Bill of Rights is in all the constitutions. Okay? May dagdag lang na iba. We have been like this for years na kapag may upcoming elections. Is he preparing the Filipino for something big? No, guys. Every time we talk about the Constitution, it is in the, most of the time we're talking about the Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights is not going to change if we change the Constitution. Even if you take out certain rights there because of bad information, the Supreme Court will simply interpret the law to put it right back in, or to interpret it right back in, which is what the Supreme Court does. Okay? So Here's the problem. When we discuss the Constitution, we need to discuss not only why it is there, okay, but the history of why it is there in the first place. So, for those people who are saying we should get rid of the 87 Constitution, that's what we call a sweeping generalization. You disagree with a certain portion of it, tapos gusto ninyong buwagin. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, burning the house down simply because you don't like the faucet in the kitchen. Okay? Do you see the discussions we're having simply because Rodrigo Duterte did something today? I like this. Oseng Yan Pagula says, if you juxtapose between Marcoses and Dutertes, you will see how two generations can be different, which breaks the myth of political dynasties being a continuance of the same brand of politics. That is true. Inday Sara is different from her father. Both brilliant, both lawyers, both trailblazers, but very, very different styles, and yet both exceedingly popular. Ito, Lance. Thank you, Lance. I hope people will understand that politics doesn't always mean good versus evil. Huh? That's true. But you know who always wrote that politics was, or parang informed us that politics is good versus evil, tapos sila yung parating good, tapos everybody against them is always evil, i.e. Marcos is evil and is evil up to now even if he's been dead oh so many years? Guess who? 'Di ba? Hindi ba tapos na tayo diyan? Things are far more complicated. And that's why we hold these talks. That's why nagla-live tayo. We talk, we discuss. Pagka yung emotional, tingnan nyo ha, tingnan nyo, even my wall, that's why I haven't been posting very much lately. Because of the toxicity, we don't have to be toxic when we're discussing these things. 'Di ba? It isn't black or white. You're choosing a candidate, just the better one. Just the person that we need for the next coming years. The person who is going to be the persons or the people who need to take us to the next step. Thank you, Lance. Pangmalakasan na pasabog, maybe to see how BBM counters and how strong he is. That's the worst na kaya iba to ng kalaban. Meron bang kalaban dito? Because some people seem to think that PRRD is just leading people on so that there are more interpretations, that the candidates are limited to just these two people, and so on and so on. Sige, di ba? So, exactly what Lance said. Is it good versus evil? Are we talking about a kalaban here other than the opposition? Because sa totoo lang, it's really become a game of BBM and Bongo, or Bongo and BBM. Sabi ni Bonnie Garcia, natawa ako sa leave Lenny out of it. Di ba? Not enough. Never mind. I don't want this to be about her. Nag-aral po ba kayo ng psychology? Daping ko natututunan sa inyo about reading situations. Salamat po sa libre lessons. Right? But I think we need to realize something here. Is that no matter what, you can't take the president out of this equation. This was the guy who dragged us kicking and screaming into the 21st century. This is the guy who looked at what a mess the country was and said, we can fix this. Do you think that he would get into a fight that he cannot win or cannot at least put in a good showing? Seriously. The ideal for all of us here is yung magkaano, the the whole idea here, 'di ba, is that we can do this. We can go through elections now with a different mindset. This is not 2016. Right? That's the main thing here. It's not 2016. The candidates are different. The situation is different. You have Inday Sara in this one, for one thing. We all have high respect for PRRD. He's good. So survey clearly shows BBM and Sara, Vox Populi, Vox Day. Yes, but it isn't elections yet. Yeah. Oh, para dun sa ibang mga natatakot diyan, sasabihin na naman, ano, bias, bias, ganyan. Bakit ako bias? Because I'm not saying things that you want to hear? Come on. I've never been one to say things that you know, simply because you want to hear them. Sometimes there are things that you don't want to hear but have to be said anyway. Maybe PRRD knew that this will be thrown to BBM later on in the campaign and diffusing it this early to preempt the opposition and the Rojas Boulevard building and bungling their timing. What is the Rojas Boulevard building? Okay. All right. Diba? So now, there you go. Everybody's thinking. Good. But I like that. I like the I like your the way you're thinking now. It's no longer simply may sinabi itong taong to galit na tayo and then that's it. Babaw yan eh. That's not how the president plays this game. The other day may nagalit sa akin because I called politics a game that the president is playing. Well, actually we all are playing it. But it's a figure of speech. Parang nagalit kasi sabi ko, hindi to laro-laro. Sabi daw niya, hindi to laro-laro. Yeah, chill. Abelano Limmin says, siraan na lang ang alam nila para umangat, lumaban na lang ng parehas. Hayaan, ayan na naman tayo. It's the same argument. We've answered this one. Babe says, ano nga, bakit di niyo masabi kung anong nagawa? Baka magbago pa isip ng mga undecided kesa awayin yung mga goldista. Who are the goldistas? I'm not sure ha. I don't know yet. Hindi pa ako nakakahabol dyan sa goldista na yan. Who is goldista? But didn't I say malasakit centers are already a thing? And that's a big deal for somebody who's only been senator for 3 years. BBM certainly has the advantage of years of service. I'll grant you that, diba? Of course. Sabi ni Karen Minyao, confirm na talaga. I think your PRRD silent advisor kahit di kayo close. Uy, grabe. Coincidence lang to. I'm only a Duterte watcher. I observed he listens to you. No, it's a coincidence. But with his own tactics, sinasadya niyang galitin ng mga Marcos loyalists kahit VP pa si Inday. Sainthood it is. Iba feeling nun, fulfilling ang existence. Common sense na lang tayong lahat. Walang taong gagawa ng maraming kabutihan then suddenly ruin someone on top of the presidential surveys. Ang daming tao sa caravan, may ibang chess move na naman si Digong. But, it's not true that I'm the president's advisor. Baka may maniwala dyan. No, actually, walang maniniwala dyan. No. Ito natawa ko. Ma'am Yoli says, existing pa ba mga oppositions? Ha. Yun na nga eh. Tignan nyo, sa politika, pag hindi ka pinag-uusapan, wala ka na. O, sinong pinag-uusapan natin dito ngayon? Michael Sacramento says, something the millennials could appreciate since they're having a ride in their life. Very colorful ang politics since Duterte. Talagang ang kakaiba ang political strategy ni PRRD. Parang roller coaster. Di mo alam sinong kinakampihan niya. Ito yata yung tinatawag na paradigm shift sa politika. Parang mamulat na tayo sa katotohanan at katatagan ng pagpili ng mga leaders sa bansa. Gods, I love you guys. I swear. Grabe guys, wag naman natin i-reduce to that. That's not what that's why the president throws all of these things at us. So suddenly we're thinking about achievements. You think about, didn't you notice, isn't that a more objective standard? Guys, 'di ba? Sabi ni Harry Reyes, all candidates are just players and PRRD's the game master. He's always two steps ahead of anyone in politics. Di ba? Di ba? He may be, this is something I noticed about the president, is he can get away with so many things. He can be, how do you call this? So politically incorrect. Di ba? Pag nagsasalita siya, may address to the nation, sasabihin niya, ito si ganito yan, that's yan. And we keep forgiving him. Haven't you noticed? We love the guy. And sometimes what he says confuses us. And we need to sit down and think, wait, what did he mean by this? Talaga bang ginagalit niya? But I like this person. Why are you doing this to me, Mr. President? And so on. And think of how far we have come since 2016. Sabi ni Heyu, Yung kaibigan ko nag-chat agad, ano daw sabi ni PRRD, naguguluhan siya. Sabi ko sa kanya, kalma ka lang para namang di mo alam na chess master yan. 6 months pa until elections. Abang-abang lang tayo. Diba? Okay. So this is it. The president is just saying that throw it into the winds. And alam mo yan, it's like, yeah, it's like this. We're at a party. Yeah. The one of the persons in that party goes out of the room, then throws in a smoke bomb. Everybody goes, it's all confusion and all of that. And go out and people, uh, you know, go outside and it's all gulo-gulo. Then after it's done, everybody's outside. You look at each other and then you start laughing. Yeah, something like that. Except some of us are really worried. Is the threat provoking BBM to fight back? Is this like the Book of Job? Oy ha, ganda yan ha. But who's the devil? Diba? If Digong is the pawn, is our pawn, diba? Who's the devil? And who is he making a bet with? Ed Sky says, do you think Bongo will benefit if Bongbong will be disqualified? I don't think so. Then most loyalists will shift their presidential votes to other candidates and to be a perilous situation. I assume for them. Okay. But we also know that the votes won't go to Lenny. I'm sorry I had to say that. Ako, I don't know where the votes are going to go. I know where my vote is going to go, but everybody else no. This is a whole new ball game. This is something, kumbaga, alam niyo yung presidente ginagawa niya? Yeah, kumbaga, yesterday, everybody's confident, yeah, BBM's going to win. The president casually says something and suddenly we're all, what? What? Is this true? Is this? I don't know. I don't know. You gotta hand it to the guy. For me, as of now, I'll go for PRD's discretion. Imagine the positive things that he made in this country in just 6 years. In fact, he even beat Marcos' era, where the late President Marcos accomplished our 24 years in the making. Well, that's also a good point. Ayan, sabi ni Joel Albo, binabalatan niya si Bongo. Kahit matalo yan, senador pa rin. Haha, si Tatay Diggs nag-utos na tumakbo siya. Yeah, I love how some people are so accurate, it's scary. Nakakairita lang na yung tao na puro papuri at respeto ang sinasabi sa kanya pero siya ganyan. Talaga? Talaga? Did you see what the opposition throws at him? Do you hear what the international press calls him? Do you honestly think that that he cares? 'Di ba? You care. You clearly care. Sabi ni Arnel Pahara Angeles, Crisette Loretta Chu, totally agree with you. A, I'm not Crisette. And B, I'm not Crisette. Sabi ni Arlene Daum, maybe I'll just vote in die and that's it. Kakapagod na rin. You know what? That's what I was saying to myself last night. Seriously. Ito. Sabi ni Joanne Bustillo, watching from Davao City, nakachamporado ka na ba? Hindi pa. The thing is, I'm still hanging, even when I'm really so tired of all the convolutions that were going on in our politics, I'm still waiting for what the president is going to say. Ito si Melchor Escarcha. I think we are the devil, betting or playing with PRR, the exciting game. He forces us to think. That's it. Think, always. What he's saying is that, he was in fact openly wondering, and suddenly all of us, look at it. People are saying, no, he said this, and you're using the words, you're trying to get at his words. Exactly what he said. No, he said this, ganito, exactly. Who is controlling the conversation here? It's still the president. Hindi na mind game ginagawa ni PRRD, paninira na lang ginagawa niya para lang sa ngalan ng sinusuportahan niyang politiko. Maybe, if mababaw yung tingin natin at mababaw maglaro ang presidente, you can think that, not forcing him to do anything. But what I'm saying is that, there's a reason why the president almost always wins. There is that reason. Diba? I'm still trying to figure out if he has an actual formula, but I haven't. Ito. What is PEME? So, ordinaryong manggagawa, ang tawag natin pre-employment. Bakit di po inilagay sa requirement ng PEM sa ordinaryong manggagawa, ang tawag natin pre-employment medical examination sa politiko naman? Pre-election medical exam para malaman na natin sinong unfit at positive on drugs. Alam mo, maraming hindi papasa. Yeah. Maraming hindi papasa. Seriously. Ito. Sabi ni David Constante Asuncion, next time, no, wag all caps. Maganda lang kasi itong sinasabi mo, kaya kailangan kong basahin. Sabi niya, BBM said, haters gonna hate, let's kill them with kindness. Ganyan ang presidente namin, may plataforma at walang paninira. That's another way of looking at it. That's actually a very healthy way of looking at things, di ba? Hindi yung because that's right. Di ba? That's right. But mudslinging is going to happen. Some people can just prefer to, I don't care, walk away. Other people want to know, well, why did he say that? That's also a good reaction. Why did he say that? What's he trying to get out of us? What is he getting at? Ito. Jenny Lampa, good question. Why Parlade is doing such a thing? Why ngayon pa? Well, when he was in the military, hindi naman kasi talaga pwede. Kasi bawal ang politika sa AFP. Okay. Look at the family name. Ang layo kung iisipin nyo yun. Ano yung meaning ng family name ay strong? Ano po yung, what are you saying? Na ganun. Okay. Guys, could you give me like 10 seconds because my cat is trying to get out. Hold on. Stop that. Stop it. Okay, down. Right down. Sorry, the other day it was my dog, today it's the cat, my cat. Hey. I don't know what Mount Cabin is trying to say. Could you please let me know? Here, Wilson Dumlao says, why not concentrate on Pacquiao's concubinage case when that falls under moral turpitude or pertitude? Guys, nagkakaroon lang po ng moral turpitude pag convicted na. Okay, that's why it's called a crime involving moral turpitude. Okay, again, crime involving moral turpitude. So, kailangan convicted na po. Si Laila de Lima, hindi pa po convicted, kaya po wala pa pong crime involving moral turpitude. In Senator Pacquiao's case, I don't know if he has a concubinage case kasi ang pwede lang po mag-file niyan ay yung asawa niya. Sabi ni Val Lopez, wow, Inglesera yung cat. No, my cat is multilingual. Sabi ni engineers, out of context, kamusta po yung archaeologic part of you? I still haven't graduated. But I'm hoping that in the next sem, meron na akong prof. Sabi ni Catalino Palagana, Sarah selected Bongbong to support. Seriously, dapat ang Pangulo at Vice ay dapat magkasundo. Bongbong and Sarah, not Bongo and Sarah. Well, these are interesting, discussions. And, I like that it's cerebral. And hindi bashing. So we can conduct that kind of conversation, di ba? Sabi ni Gilbert Gaza, ang formula ni PRRD ay sa side lang natin ang competition, small fraction na lang sa kalaban, still a win-win in my opinion. Good point. Sabi ni Bruhilda, Marcos' disqualification means democracy is dead and this country is hopeless politically. Says who? Diba? Says you? I disagree. But I don't see a disqualification happening, ano? Not right now, no. Not based on the complaint, certainly not. Although, I'm a little worried that the COMELEC didn't dismiss outright. Okay? I'm a little worried about that. They could have, kasi on the face of it, hindi naman disqualify ito. But they're trying to put in a new argument, but it's not in the complaint. That's why ang tingin ko, nag-file ng motion for extension of time yung lawyers ni BBM para full yung yung sagot nila, pati yung mga anticipated na issues na na niya, na madi-discuss na nila para mabilis na ma-dismiss. Bakit yung ibang kaalyado dati ni PRRD hindi sumama sa partido ni Bongo? I think they were also caught by surprise. Nobody discussed this. It was not openly discussed in PDP Laban, or at least that's not what I'm seeing. Aaron Lee says it's a calculated risk. Bongo stays because not all PRRD supporters are for BBM. BG will stay to break the votes among the other candidates. Again, another good point. The election is months away, so many things can still happen, i.e. BBM DQ case or Dilawans will do anything to rid them of BBM. In that unlikely event, BG will then catch BBM votes. It's more likely for BBM votes to slide to BG than the other way around. General Parlade will be there to share the votes to ensure PRRD supporters will not overpower BG vote. That requires some serious balancing. People nowadays think that the political happenings now are messy and bloody. Correction, it's even bloodier. It was even bloodier before. Remember Hayat 10? Bitin yung yung comment mo. Sabi ni Terence John Lamayo, bakit hindi pa po disqualified si Tess the Boy, convicted na ata siya. Hindi po siya convicted of a crime involving moral turpitude. Actually, he was dismissed administratively, and yung administrative penalty niya carries a crime of disqualification. So dapat na-serve niya yung disqualification when he was in the Senate. Now, I don't know if anybody is filing a disqualification case against him. If there is none, then the presumption is that he is not disqualified. Diba? Ano po lahi ng cat nyo? I'm not sure. But at any rate, he's adopted. So, wala po. I usually take in, I don't normally get yung may breed. Usually binibigay lang naman sa akin, and usually it's because people can't take care of them or they're rescue. So yun po yung ginagawa. So while we're on that question, guys, I would really like to take this opportunity to pitch na please don't, as much as possible, don't buy from yung puppy farms, and please help rescue stray dogs and cats. Just real. I like this, Okita mo. Thinking. For me, what PRRD is doing will not help BG also. Kung si BBM po talaga yung pinasasaringan niya. Ayan na. Oh, see? Very good. Hindi pa rin naman mapupunta kay BG yung votes ni BBM. It's like how Lenny and her supporters are doing for the past 5 years. Nisiraan ng Duterte admin. Pero di naman sila dumadami. Dumadami pa, may ayaw sa kanya. Yes, but the difference between the president and Lenny is that to begin with, he has massive support. Sabi ni Don Arpot, naawa ko sa rason ng iba why mag-BBM sila. Marcos Gold ipamamahagi daw ni former First Lady Imelda sa Pilipinas. I doubt it. Ayan, sabi ni Moxan, adopt, don't shop, love you. Les Sadie says, we adopted a cat too, but he died last year. I miss him a lot. Nothing helps more than having another pet. Sabi ni Glenn Galia, I have nothing against other political vloggers. That's good because I don't like to criticize them for expressing a different opinion. But when I watch your live, the wavelength of discussion is way better. Glenn of Canada, keep it up. Okay. Steph Bautista says, we won't go beyond personality politics if there isn't a paradigm shift in how we choose our leaders. Kaya siguro nasasabi ng Pangulo why people are so loco about a certain politician. He probably wants us to think before we cast that vote. Can you give the guy a cigar? I know it. Bawal smoking. A prize. Para kayong nanalo sa ruleta. But very good. I like that. I like that. I'm not saying any of these opinions are right or wrong. Yan. Sinasagot ko lang those with obvious possible logical flaws. Pero dun sa iba naman, even if there are logical problems to it, some of them are so unique and original that they really need to be heard. Oops. Mukhang epektibo na naman ang move ni PRRD today. Si TP binabanatan na agad si PG ngayon sa SMNI. Basta tayo ay easy lang muna dito kay attorney. Let's wait na lang sa mga susunod na kabanata. Hindi pa natin nakikita ang buong picture kaya kalmado lang. Magaling talaga si Digong magpaisip. Yes. Diba? Ako, it upsets me to think that the party with his daughter whom we love dearly and the party of the president are seemingly at odds. Diba? It is upsetting. But the takeaway here is, again, with that kicking and screaming into some kind of political maturity. Ito, sabi ni Marisi Ana, ha ha ha, naku attorney, halata na naman na may kilikilingan na kayo. Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night. Mukhang, sabi ni Laika Rani, kay BBM, sama-sama tayo babangon uli. Sa Pinklawan at TDS Lawan, di na tayo makakabangon. Gising, bangon, Pilipinas. I disagree, but okay. Maiba naman po ako dahil bumalapit nang bumaba si PRRD kaya ginugulo na naman tayo ng China o di kaya busy tayo lahat sa eleksyon kaya nagtitake advantage na naman ng mga inchik. I think the way they act isn't a reaction to how we're acting, it's more a reaction to their own domestic audience. Sorry, naulit lang. Last two. Again, this is mind-blowing. Bagong pasabog ni PRRT. There you go. Sabi ni Paolo Venus, mas masarap makinig sa inyo, balance lang kayo, na turn off ako kay TP. Wag naman po. Ganito yun, when other vloggers like to talk about their opinions, may value din yun because coming with those opinions are also information. TP has sources that he's very good at getting sources and all that. So, he's still worth listening to. Diba? Even if, kunwari, hindi ninyo type yung panig niya or yung opinion niya for a time, then you will have to just agree to disagree, di ba? Di naman ibig sabihin nun, lalayasan na natin siya. Ganon din kay Byron. Ako, I find that other bloggers, even if we don't agree, mahalaga pa rin na naririnig natin yung opinion nila para nakikita din natin yung kabilang panig. Hindi maganda po yung isa lang yung naririnig natin. Hindi rin maganda po na hindi tayo umaalis dun sa ating comfort zone. We're going to hear more arguments during elections. We're going to hear things about our candidates that we don't like. Ang galing-galing natin manadya, diba, sa iba, manghagis. Pero this time around, we're also going to be on the receiving end. This is not 2016. It's a different ball game. And you're thinking about, and with the president full in this game, and this time as president, this time as something like the elder statesman, this is a different equation altogether. Si Kira go, oh my God, iba si Duterte, tuloy pa rin ang teleserye. Ano na Marites? Sabi ni si Susan Raimundo, na chismis na dati si Isko na nag-aadik at sugarol man. Baka po siya ang binabanggit ni PRRD. Galing ni Madam, pero I'm not saying it's true or not. Wala tayong binabanggit. Ay, nako. So, chill, everybody, and enjoy the game. Okay? Watch how the master does this. Watch how it's played. Na kanya-kanyang style, 'di ba? As one of you said, eto ang style ni BBM is more like haters gonna hate, si PRRD hindi. Okay, kasa. Full firepower. You know? And then he'll say, basta sabi ko lang, pwede naman kayo maniwala, pwedeng hindi. Then walks away. Para siya naghagis ng tear gas, tapos umalis. Tapos wala lang, guys, enjoy, tapos alis. Sa meantime, nagkagulo na dun sa loob. Stephen, Luke, and Leeson says, BPM was faced with this rumor before. He was willing to undergo drug tests back in 2016. And even last month, he said he was okay with it. Oh, so bakit kayo galit? Tignan niyo paano mag-react si BBM. Bakit ganon? Sabi ni Laika Rani, paano po tayo maiba, why disagree? Baka po maiba mindset ko. Eh kasi, pinareho mo yung Pinklawan tsaka DDS Lawan. Di ba? Couldn't it be that we just all have different sides to it? Because for the first time, it's not antagonistic or we shouldn't be antagonistic. Sanay nga tayo dun sa naratiba na good versus evil and suddenly now we're faced with two shades of gray. Okay? Huwag na isa si Lenny. Pero yung BBM, Bongo, and all that. Yeah? Just two different shades of gray. Hindi na po tayo black and white. Hindi, no, that's not how this conversation is going to go anyway. Because what you're doing is saying that there's a right side and a wrong side. What we're saying is that it's just possible that there are two different sides here. And that not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean that one is bad and one is good. Because that's how you're forcing yourself to do things this way. Because he is not, because he's not espousing your favorite candidate, you have to paint the president as evil. It doesn't work anymore. Those formulas, they don't work anymore. They may have worked in 2016 because what we were going against, it was more like a new versus old. Okay? Now, we just have two different candidates. And it's harder to think away from the usual paradigm of black versus white. We can't. Because all of the arguments that we used in black versus white, every time you throw it, it can still be used against you. So we have to get out of that now. It's time to start thinking about who is just the better person for the next few years. And that's it. Diba? It isn't about, who is good. Itong isang taong to, bad yan. Itong isang taong to, hindi Pilipino. And all that. You're off your comfort zone now. This is a whole different new territory. Where's my cat?
It's here. It's in your room.
What?
It's in your room.
The other cat? In my room? Oh, okay. Banat Conci Vlog says, bakit ngayon lang sila nag-feel ng DQ kung kailan tumakbo si BBM sa pagkapangulo? Paano ka magdi-disqualify kung hindi siya candidate? You mean sa pagkapangulo. Sa tingin ko, mabubunyag lahat ng mga kagaguhan ng mga Aquino at oligarch pag nanalo si BBM. Yes, or maybe no. Because, BBM is, okay, ganito siya di ba? It's, haters gonna hate, let bygones be bygones, let's move forward. Ganon yung style niya. Si Presidente Duterte, abogado yan. So merong mga justice element yan. It's the drug war. It's going after criminality. Finally shaking as one of the people here said, shaking the tree, and so on. Wilson Dumlao has brought up an issue that we have to think about. Sabi niya, sana elections are earlier than January. If elections were held now, then there's no question who is going to win. But because you're mentioning that, it means you're worried that the polls might shift between now and next year. I agree with your observation. anything can happen. And in most elections, hindi parating yung early lead ang nananalo. Remember, Villar was an early lead and so on. Ganun. But for me, this is just, it's so different from any elections that we were having before. Yeah. Sabi ni Pinoy, TP is good. Maybe they just don't like his opinion right now. I just discovered Luminous yesterday. I really like how he talks. Seems unbiased and objective. Loyalty to country, not politicians. Yes, there you go. Or not even to bloggers. No. I mean, of course, we have to like the bloggers that we follow. Pero, sometimes, but you're right. When they don't express an opinion that we like, we don't have to like all their opinions all the time. Ito. This is, I think we can end on this note. Agbayani Ustin says, let's be honest here, yung ingay ang pinapangarap nila Lenny, Isko at Pacquiao kasi promotion din yan sa kanila. Kaso wala na sa kanila yung limelight. That's it. There you go. You may not like what the president has said, but it has kept the focus on him and your candidate. Diba? I have no candidate right now. No, I do actually. Aminado naman. Anyway, the point here is, huling-huli na eh, ang dami kong baller. Anyway, he's right. You know what they say, that good or bad publicity is still publicity. Diba? Attention is important in politics. You get to dictate the narrative later on. Well, Salvo says, is it really a chess game of PRRD? Is it purely random? The gameplay has drastically changed since the opposition is not running the show. Hindi lang siguro tayo sanay na puro bida nila. Totoo yan. Lahat bida ngayon. Walang kontrabida. Yun. That's what we're trying to say. Guys, thank you very much. You're actually educating me more than I've helped you. There's so much intelligent conversation going on here. Diba? We're no longer thinking in the way that the opposition expects us to think. Tignan mo si Lenny, she's still stuck in the 70s. Diba? Akala nila, gimmickan pa rin na, magpag-gimmick tayo, pansinin tayo ng mga tao, oh, let's wear pink. Yeah. But here, even whether it's random or a chess game, even random numbers have formulas, diba? Even randomness has genius to it. So magandang gabi. May karambola po tayo tomorrow and iba pa rin yung mga opinions ng ating mga co-hosts. So let's see. Naman na bardagulan na naman tayo sa karambola tomorrow. Please don't get upset pag hindi ako masyado nakakasalita. It's because yung co-hosts ko, like si Boss Jonat, he has another show also but only on weekends. Si Boss Conrad only has karambola. So ako, I have tambayan and karambola. So if you don't hear me during karambola, I have live and I also have tambayan. So wag po ma-upset pagka I have to address this now kasi hindi ko nasasabi during karambola. Minsan kasi may nagagalit kapag hindi ako nakakasalita or sinasabi nila, Boss Conrad interrupts me. He doesn't do it on purpose to shut me up or anything like that. Sometimes he's just trying to concentrate on a certain idea at saka tapusin niya yung idea na yun. So I hope na matanggap din eventually yung ganun. Medyo nakakaano lang na nakaka-upset lang yung biglang napuputol yung train of thought. But it's okay. Masasanay din tayo. And last, ay nako, sa'yo lang ito ni Trixie kay Thinking Pinoy, sapat na ayoko dun sa man lagi ni Isulso. He has his uses and, I have to hand it to him. He has something about it, about his blog also works because look, so many people also look to him. So it's not an accident that people trust him to articulate things that they themselves cannot say. So, but of course, everybody has their choices and it's also okay. So, maraming salamat guys. Tulog na, huwag masyadong agit. We have to think of this as sort of a game. Diba? Filipinos tend to get personal and tend to think of their politics or their candidate as somebody that they own, a part of their family, not own as in objects, but more like a part of their family. So pag kami naririnig silang criticism about their their politicians or their candidates, they feel defensive. Na ano, we don't have to defend our candidate all the time. Okay? We don't have to. We have to accept that they're human, diba? And that they will make mistakes. And that sometimes all we're going for really is the lesser evil or the person with the better platform. So to avoid getting defensive, we go for where do we want these people to take us? What do we want to see in the next 6 years after next, well, 2022 pa, in the next 6 years? What is it? Where do we go from here? Because the president has taken us so far. He's handing over the reins to somebody else come June. And hopefully he can do his bit in the Senate well after that. But the leadership now, the captain of the ship, goes to somebody else, and we have to choose that captain. Where do we want to go? We have to stop thinking in linear manner. We have to stop thinking in terms of black and white. We have to listen to all of the input without rejecting it outright simply because it's something we don't want to hear. The idea is to think and to start thinking differently. Namamanipulate tayo dati ng mga tinatawag nating dilawan kasi they reduced the story to good versus evil. Ninoy good, Marcos bad. Cory good, everybody else evil. Diba? So all of our elections become I will fight for you kind of rhetoric. Na hindi naman kailangan ganyan. We have candidates who can take us farther, who can see things a little clearer, who have better smarts at putting together solutions. This is what we are going to have to do for the next 6 years. Start thinking less defensively about our candidates and think more objectively. What are the standards that are we setting? What standards are we setting for the next leader, the next president of the country? And who is closest to those standards? Maraming salamat, and I hope that that this sets us off into thinking. Not think out of the box. For instance, you like your candidate, but now it's time to substantiate it or time to compare. What is the other candidate saying? Di naman tayo pwedeng magsara ng tenga natin about what the other candidates are saying because certainly, no, labanan nito. Sino bang mas magaling na plataforma? May mas magaling gumawa ng plataforma? Sinong may leadership? Sino yung may malasakit? Medyo politically charged yung word na yan. Sino yung nakakaintindi ng mga taong naghihirap? Mga ganon. This is the thinking that we have to do, although we're in the run-up to the next elections. Our candidates have so many months to present themselves, to get to know each other, to allow us to get to know them. Let's take every opportunity to listen to what they have to say. Tingnan natin, diba? Walang masama dun sa pakikinig sa ibang kandidato because it can solidify our choice or it can make us go for a more objective standard. That's really all up to you. Well, huwag na tayong magdiktahan kung sino yung dapat binoboto. Alam natin yun. Pero I think it's time for us to start setting standards. Diba? Like, maganda yung mga tanong na ano bang nagawa. Sana, hindi naman yung ano nang nagawa ng lecheng yan. Diba? It's more like, teka, what has he done? Alright? So, maraming salamat, everybody. Maraming salamat for your participation. All of these incredibly intelligent comments, even if galit pa rin kayo, at yung iba sa inyo, galit sa akin. Okay rin lang yan. Bukas may karambola. We'll see you then. In the meantime, magandang gabi and please have a good night's rest. At para dun sa mga nagtatrabaho, you all have a good day now. What? Nakabalik na daw po si Mermaid Bakes. Huwag kakalimutan. May cloggy. Thank you. Good night, everybody.